Hey doing, folks? Welcome to another episode of my refight of Brandywine using GMT's Great Battles of the American Revolution. We are we're at the top of turn 8. Actually, as I take a look down here. Been a while since I had an episode. A little bit rusty here. I got to catch up on the rules just a little bit. It's been a few days. But nonetheless, pretty excited to get into this. Battle could end a lot sooner than I expected. We'll see. Things are not going too well for the Patriots. However, we have the British. They're up first in turn 8. They do have some reinforcements in the form of some dragoons. Not a powerful unit, but there it is. They do have this coming on. And this comes on right behind Howe. If you remember where he came onto the board earlier, you can see him up there to the north, which is the left side of the map up here. So that dragoon unit's going to be following up behind Howe's initial deployment area there. Also, we have Gnifhausen down here. He's made a crossing at Chad's Ford. He's on the east side of the Brandywine currently, taking it to the Patriots. One thing I just noticed that I didn't realize in the previous episode, that he's actually adjacent to Proctor's battery position. Wasn't paying attention. That's a good thing for the British because they want to deny the Patriots that position. It's an objective, or part of the objective of the Patriots. If the battle goes the full 12 turns and the Patriots control that position, Proctor's battery position, and the Birmingham Meeting House, which I showed earlier, and I'm more than happy to show again, it's right here. Patriots need to control them by the end of the battle, which is 7 p.m. Again, we're at turn 8, and turn 12 is the end of the battle. And if the Patriots can manage that, they'll get a decisive victory, but I am not sure they're going to be able to last that long. We shall see. A lot of it's going to depend on what the British do in this turn, I think. In fact, I think the British might even be able to wrap up this battle in this turn. We shall see. And I keep saying that is because the army morale currently of the Patriots is all the way down here. It's at 4. Once it reaches 0, that's it. The Patriot forces will withdraw from the battlefield. It is a substantial victory for the British at that point. Substantial being one less than a decisive victory. And I've been aiming for decisive victories for both sides in this battle. And I think we're ready to get into this. So, let's take a look down here and see what my plans are for the British. You can see, British are all deployed. They look pretty good at the moment. This nice lineup of artillery. Of course, these won't be firing until the Patriots go. Defensive artillery. There's some infantry in here supporting them, just in case the Patriots decide to come across, which they could if they wanted to. But I'm not too worried about that. I think right now, overall, if the British can get that army morale of the Patriots down through combat, and that's usually how it is, captures and elimination of enemy units, that could end the battle right here in turn 8. I'm not going to get more aggressive than I was planning to at this point. I'm not going to try and force the decision early. I really did want that decisive victory for the British, but I'm just going to keep playing, continuing with what my objectives were from the very beginning. Even though I do have an opportunity to finish this battle right now, we're just going to keep pushing ahead as planned. And to do that, we're going to start with Grant. Grant is going to be he's basically going to be fighting against this position here where Wayne is, Proctor's battery. I do want to take that. And if I do manage to capture it, by the way, that does give me victory points for the British. They can gain victory points for capturing this and holding it, depending on when they do so. And if I take a quick look over to turn 8, Proctor's battery is worth 4 victory points if I took it in this turn. So there is that. But victory points, which are used to determine a marginal victory, the least valued victory you can get, is through victory points. And the British already have 16 to the Patriots 2.5. So, yeah, there is that. And I'm not too focused on that as far as victory conditions. The battle really is not that close. It's going to come down to a marginal or a decisive so far. But anyway, I'm going to reinforce Grant's position, get some more troops up behind him. I don't want to cut off his retreat, however, if things go bad for him. So I might want to keep that open, to be quite honest with you. So I might not occupy this hex. But I will support him here. I will make the crossing, and I don't want Grant going against Wayne all by himself. That will bring in this unit here of artillery and patriots. I'll think about that, but I do want to begin the crossing and moving forward, get away from this penalty for attacking across the Brandywine Creek. I'll look at this a little bit closer before I commit anything. But regardless, there is going to be a combat here with Grant, and I want to support him as best I can. And yeah, so we're going to do that. And as far as Howe is concerned, there really isn't a whole lot to do other than just continue deploying onto the battlefield. I was tempted when I brought these guys on to be more, to make it look more realistic. I mean, typically these guys would be advancing in a column, and the lead of that column would be turning to the right with the grenadiers in the lead, and they'd all form up that way. I got these guys kind of fanning way out like this, which is okay. This is reasonable. And, you could still imagine the column here and maybe some break-off units forming separately. So it's still cool. But this is where we're at. I did manage to bring on the entire force, which is one reason it's like this, all fanned out. But I will get very aggressive here since we didn't take the tea break earlier. I am going to move my troops forward as quickly as possible, engage these patriots just as planned, with Howe moving up on the left with the grenadiers and his elite strike force, we'll call it, and Cornwallis moving up the Germans on the right, and the column moving up the center, which is mostly light infantry and line infantry, will be heading up the road to engage these units here. I want to push them back as quickly as possible, and I'll have the light Jaegers here kind of maneuver a little bit, get away from this fighting. I don't want them involved too heavy at this point. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to focus on. So let's jump into movement and all the rallies. And I don't believe there's anything to rally for the British. No, nothing to rally. So it's going to go straight to movement, and then we'll get to the defensive fire and rifle fire phases. All right, so I finished all the movement. And again, there was no rallies, so we're actually at the top of the Patriots' defensive artillery fire. But let me go into my movements here and show you what I did. Of course, here, like I said, I did advance some support for Grant. Not a whole lot, to be honest with you. I don't know how successful this will be. There's a lot of Patriots I am adjacent to with Grant and this unit, the 44th Regiment of Foot. They're all adjacent to enemy, and they're at the bottom of the slopes. They've got earthworks at the top here to face. It's not a good position for the British. They have to attack because of being adjacent and in the zone of control of the enemy. This unit right here, his zone of control does extend out of this forest, but these Patriots, their zone of controls does not extend into woods. So there is that situation. So the British will have to attack with that unit because of that. And what else have we got here? I moved this guy up as well. This unit here, the King's Own, is back in action, moving up into these woods, of course. And Gnifhausen, I did support him. I moved up some extra troops here. He's got the 28th at strength 3. And the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, which were fighting earlier as well, they have joined him. 6 strength points in that hex, and they're fighting for the Chad's Ferry, another primary ford. And we're lined up against some disrupted units. Again, these Patriots have not had a chance to move that unit of disrupted troops. But other than that, they got strength 2 and a strength 1 sitting here. So we'll see how that goes. But Gnifhausen is making an attack on that primary ford as well. I also moved some cannons up and got the Tories over here. The Queen's Rangers, I threw their cannon in there so they might get a shot off at this unit here. There's some possibility that the British artillery in the coming turns will be able to fire at something when the Patriots are up. So yeah, did get all this done. And one thing I should point out is, in the previous episode, I believe I had this guy on a cavalry withdrawal. He had a cavalry withdrawal marker at the start of movement, and that marker would have been removed during the rally. He cannot move while he has that marker on him. And I remember during the episode I was talking about, well, I forgot to take that off, and then I forgot to move him, so he's probably going to move up into here somewhere. Well, he actually couldn't move. So I fixed that, and he's back where he started from. He is able to move this turn, however. So I haven't actually moved him. I was thinking about skirting these woods, getting out of the zone of control of this enemy here, and just getting in behind the lines of the enemy and see what happens with that. Alternatively, I could move him that way, on the other side of the wood, as you can see over here, and help Hal. Not that Hal really needs the help, because there's a lot going on over there. So I'm not sure what I'll do with him. I think I'll go with my original plan, try and sneak him up this way. So I've yet to move him. He's going to move up, if he can, through this light woods, as far as he can. Maybe entice the Patriots to come off their hill, but I doubt they will. So that's what's going on down here. And as far as Hal's force, I did move the Dragoons on that were reinforcements. They're now here, at the bottom of the slopes. Kind of want to support this side because I don't have any cavalry on this side. Basically, the troops are moving like I planned. I got the Germans and some Grenadiers moving up on the right here to be reserve. And the main column is moving forward, the head of which is Cornwallis. We got some light infantry and line troops here. And Howe, of course, has maneuvered to the left flank. He's with the Coldstream Guards. I believe that's the Coldstream Guards. Yes, it is. And the light troops are engaging currently the Patriot advance formations. I'm also bringing up some cannon in the rear. Not really that important at this point. But yeah, all things are going the way they should. So as far as combats are concerned, at least on this side, we're going to see Cornwallis engaging here. He's got some light infantry, strength 5. These are all pretty good troops, these lights. Various strength sizes. We got a strength 1 there. And a strength 5 here. These are lights. That's the first light infantry. Is it the first? Yeah, it is. So there's going to be a lot of initial combats going on here involving this unit, this stack, this unit of lights, mostly the lights. And that's about it. So we're going to be engaging a couple Patriot units here. And one other thing which will be somewhat interesting, as you can see, over here, again, this is one of my rash movements without thinking, which I like to do when I'm playing solo. I don't like to take my mistakes back. But this might not be a mistake. I've got strength 2 worth of Dragoons here at the foot of the slopes of this undefended Patriot battery. New Jersey Battery A, I believe. It's only, well, it's going to be captured, basically, is what's going to happen. I'm going to be able to advance in there and take those unprotected guns. But of course, let's remember, the Patriot defensive fire is first. So if I can weather that, I believe I can advance right in there and take those guns. And that's not going to be good for the Patriots. So there is that. All right, folks, I'm going to get into the defensive fire for the Patriots and show you guys the results of that, as well as any rifle fire. And I don't believe there's any up here. Well, there is right here. These 2 units. We got some German Jaegers and some light infantry for the Patriots. They're rifle armed. They are eligible to fire. So we're going to get into that. And real quick down here with Grant and Gnifhausen, there is some Patriot batteries that'll be able to fire, like right here and down here. Well, I can't see him. Counter battery fire, possibly. There's an infantry unit here. Rifle fire, yeah, there's some rifles in here. We're going to see. I don't think there's any rifles for the Germans in range, or the British in range. So it's mostly Patriot artillery we're going to see engaging the enemy down here. So, okay, let's see the results of this. All right, I'm going to jump in here before I get to the rifle fire. Although not much happened with the artillery fire up on Howe's position. But down here it was very interesting, and I'm going to explain this here. There was some artillery fire for the Patriots, defensive. This battery right here was able to fire on this position here, ineffective. Next up, I went to this unit right here, And I fired on this, where was he? This unit. 3 hex range. 1, 2, 3. It's on the slopes as well as the artillery, so it can see them. I picked this unit, and I got a 1 result. So this unit is reduced 1 step. In other words, it's flipped. So that was good for the morale of the Patriots. So there was that. Now, next thing I did, okay, let me think here. There was this battery here, and he basically fired at close range against this unit right here. Totally ineffective. It was only a strength 1. But here's the thing. This next one I did, and it was Proctor's battery. He has a strength 2 cannon up here, and he's adjacent to Grant. And so is this unit here, the 3rd Pennsylvania battery. So I combined strength 3, point-blank range, basically. I think I needed a 4 or better. And we fired on here, and I rolled a 1. So I went to the next battery, and I think the next battery was this one. I did something, but what I did is I said, you know what, let's give the Patriots a break, and instead of resolving this with a roll of 1, let's give that 1 to this unit here, and okay, it missed. That was the 1. So I rolled a second time for these guys. I got a 2. So at that point, it was totally ineffective, so I had another battery, this one over here. So I decided, you know what, let's give the Patriots one more chance. We'll give the 2 we rolled to this battery against Gnifhausen's position. Okay, so that missed. So I made one final roll. This was their last chance. These 2 batteries, adjacent fire on Grant's stack. And sure enough, I got a nice, decent roll, and it caused a disruption. It was okay. It was legal. It's all good. I gave the Patriots a little bit of a last chance to be successful somewhere. So the unit was disrupted, fell back all the way to this position, and that was that. So Grant is alone here with just the 1 regiment remaining to go into the close combat phase. So that was pretty fun. And so yeah, the Patriots got a little bit of a leeway there, a little bit of a break, and that also helped the Army morale. I'll show you that. So I can't get the camera over here, but I'll show you the results. The British dropped to 19 at this point from all the shooting over there. And also, the Patriot morale went up to 5 at this point. And there was a little bit going on up here as well. I'm going to show you that. And where is it? Right down here we had the artillery firing, and wouldn't you know it, the Patriot cannon back here were totally ineffective against these British horse units. And this battery also fired here, ineffective. So going into rifle fire, we're going to see these guys square off, taking shots at each other, most likely. And same thing over on the other side with Gnifhausen, where we've got a couple units, well, 1 unit right here of rifle armed. And they're probably going to take some shots at Grant's position as well. And I definitely want to show you that result before we get into close combat, because it could be pivotal. Alright, finished the rifle fire, all ineffective. He took a shot at Grant's position, and he got a result of a 2, so he didn't hit. And also up by Howe's position, the Jaegers and Patriots shot at one another, ineffective. So now we're ready to get into the fun stuff, which is the close combat. Now, this will be interesting. Grant has to fight here. He's got only 1 regiment remaining, and I believe it is a strength 4. And he's got a lot of units he's adjacent to, and this strength 3 as well. Also has to attack. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of Patriots surrounding them in this location. We've got a strength 2. We've got Wayne with a strength 1 unit. That's not very useful, but Wayne is involved, so that could be important. His combat leadership is 1, so it's going to modify the combat. The attackers will suffer a penalty of -1, but he's only got a strength 1 there. However, over here, the Patriots have a strength 4 adjacent to Grant. That's going to be important. And finally, the rifles have an option to fight as well, and there is a strength 1 in here. And they're also adjacent to this position. If I attack from here, the British do not have to attack across this Brandywine Creek hex. That is an option. But if I do, these guys will have to be involved against him. At least one of them will. And yeah, so we're going to see what happens here. And of course, up on Howe's position, we've got this combat right here, this whole area here. British have a substantial advantage going up against 2 Patriot units, 2 Strength 5 Patriot units. Going against pretty much, I think the British overall have a slight advantage over them in numbers. A 4, a 5, a 1, and a 5 against a 5 and a 5. So we're going to see the results of this as well. Pivotal moment, folks. The Army morale for the Patriots is at 5. It could drop in this turn and end the battle. But that's if things go really well for the British. So let's see how the combat turns out. All right, taking a look at the combats up here at Howe's force. Cornwallis and these 2 units were successful. They forced the enemy unit, this one right here, to retreat into this hex that is now stacked with some light infantry rifles. Cornwallis himself advanced into that hex, moving forward with the unit that was with him. It was basically these 2 units. These 2 stacks were fighting him, not this guy. And in addition, there was a combat here, if you remember as well. There was a unit here and a unit here. It was, I think it was 3-2 odds is what it came to. Cornwallis was 2-1 odds, by the way. Tactics gave a -1 to the combat here, so that benefited the Patriots. But back to this combat, 2 units were fighting against this one. It was a Strength 5 against a Strength 6 total, these light infantry. And the British didn't fare so well here. The lead unit, these light infantry, are forced to retreat back to this position. They are now stacked with some guns here. And that was the end of the combat. This unit passed its morale, so it did not retreat as well. One thing I forgot to do is use Howe's adjacency to this combat to add tactics card options for the British. I forgot to do that. It's okay. They basically fought with just the 4 basic tactical options. And yeah, we're going to leave it at that. And I believe, again, the tactics choice cards resulted in a -1 favoring the Patriots in this case. So that helped, but that's okay. And finally up here, the cavalry did manage to advance into the hex without any combat being resolved, of course. There was no infantry to fight. There was no one protecting the cannon. Cannon were captured. The position was taken. Both units advanced up the slopes and into the woods. The Patriots are back down to 4 for their army morale. Remember, they were up to 5 at one point from the shooting results. And the British dropped to 20 at this point. So now let's go see what happened over on Grant's side of the Brandywine. All right, let's take a closer look at how I'm going to distribute these attacks, because this is an important part of the battle so far. Now, if we look at this, let's start from the left, and we got the 44th foot right here. They're in woods. They are downslope to 2 adjacent enemy units who cannot trace a zone of control into the British hex, but that doesn't mean anything in this case. I can trace a zone of control out of my hex. So I have to attack both of these units. I have no choice. However, if this stack is attacked separately by, say, Grant, because he's adjacent, I don't have to attack both of these units. I only have to attack this one. And that's what I want to do. So ultimately, this guy is going to be attacking here. Grant, on the other hand, will be attacking these 2 hexes. Let's skip this for a second and look over here at this combat. Now, this unit has to attack in this case. It's actually, he doesn't. It's an option because he's on the opposite of the Brandywine. He's also in woods, so he's not in the zone of control of the enemy that he's adjacent to in either case here. Let's ignore that for a second. But by attacking here, that's going to free up some of the pressure that's on Grant, because Grant is adjacent to him as well. If I don't attack this guy, that means Grant is going to have to face all 3 of these hexes. I don't want to do that. So with him committed over here, freeing me up, Grant's going to just be fighting these 2 stacks all by himself, because this unit, the King's Own, is striking across the Brandywine against this stack here. It's going to be a difficult combat for the King's Own, of course, because they're attacking across the Brandywine Creek itself, but it must be done to relieve Grant some of the pressure that's on him at this point. And finally, by attacking here, it means this unit also has to be attacked, but he's going to be attacked anyway because Gnifhausen as well is adjacent to him across the ford, or the ferry, the primary ford in this case it's considered. He's a strength 6. Gnifhausen is also attacking this hex. So this unit only has to fight here. Gnifhausen's going to take care of this stack. And Grant will be fighting these two stacks, and this unit will be attacking this stack. All in all, it doesn't look good for the British. I'm basically hoping to survive at this point, especially with Grant's fighting against Wayne and the Proctor battery position, and these guys along the pike. Gnifhausen, I think, has some opportunity here. He's got a disrupted opponent. In addition, there's a 2 strength there and a 1 strength. So it's strength 3 he's going up against with his strength 6. Plus he's got a +1 for his combat leadership, and he can use all the options for his cards. Yeah, so there is that. So right here is we're going to hope for the best, and I think that is the best opportunity for the British. So that's how we're dividing up our combats. Now, let's jump into it, and I'm going to show you the results of this whole assault by the British. All right, that was pretty exciting, actually. And this is it. All the combats have been resolved, and this is the look at it. And unfortunately, I resolved Grant's combat. Grant is right here currently, last. So there was this combat and these combats over here with Gnifhausen and the King's Own. They fought their battles first. And the British had a disrupted unit that was engaged here. It fell back across. It's now disrupted. That dropped the British Army morale 1. In addition, this unit here that was fighting from this position was successful, threw the enemy back. They're currently in this hex and now occupies that opposite side of the Brandywine. And remember, we had Grant was located here. Next combat was Gnifhausen. His unit fell back, retreated into this hex here. He remained with the other unit, so Gnifhausen has not moved. So this stack here, which I believe was strength 6, actually pretty strong, held its ground against Gnifhausen's attack across the Chad Ferry. So success, a little bit of failure here, slowed up, and over here, failure, this unit withdrew. Finally, or retreated, disrupted actually. Grant was the final one to fight against these two stacks. He did not fare well at all. It was 1-to-1 odds. There was a total of -2 to the die roll, even after tactics. And yeah, it was just too much for him, attacking up slope, behind works, and so on. And his entire force, well, 1 regiment, was disrupted and retreated. He's now located here. Grant is with him. He retreated with the unit. And there he is. It's a good thing I left an avenue of retreat for my units, because you don't want to be crowding too much. Otherwise, your units cannot retreat. You don't want to do overstacking. So there is that. So, yeah, that was not successful. So let's take a look at the Army morale situation. As you can see here, I can't get a better angle on this. But anyway, I think you get the gist here. The Patriots stayed down at 4. British dropped down to 18. They were at 21, and that was from having units disrupted. At one point, the Patriots did get up to 5. They almost crossed up to 6, but now they're back down to 4 again. And just to double check in my charts here, when you disrupt an enemy unit, your army morale does not go up, and I think I might have made a mistake with that earlier in the game. I'm not sure about this. I might have, where, for instance, if the British had a unit disrupted, their morale would drop for their army. It would drop 1. And I think by moving up the Patriots up 1, I was making a mistake. But if I did do that, it was probably more with the British for disrupting Patriot units. I might have been bumping them up 1 when I dropped the Patriots down 1. I might have. I'm not sure about that. I pretty much stick to the tables, whatever the tables say. And it's pretty clear that you're not supposed to go up when you disrupt a unit. Just the disrupted unit's army morale drops 1. So I don't know. I might have made a mistake. I might not have. Of course, I could probably go back in the video and see. But that's the situation, folks. That's the end of the British turn. It was really, they did nothing. Had limited success fighting across the Brandywine. The Patriot morale is still at 4, what it was at the start. The only real success was they had up there with Howe, where he was able to capture some guns. which hurt the Patriot morale, captured unit, and pushed back the initial units here. I think this unit here retreated, and this stack with Cornwallis advanced, and that was it. So nothing major here, but there was the capturing of the guns. So that's the that was the end of turn 8 for the British. It's now going to go turn 8 for the Patriots, and they're going to be up next. I'm going to cut the video off here, folks, and upload this for you. I hope you enjoyed. In the next episode, we're going to see the Patriots' turn. How did they respond? Especially down here. They previously lost Green as their commander. That's not good. And the British are being repulsed. So let's see if the Patriots can capitalize on this, build up their defenses around Proctor's battery, which is proving to be a tough nut to crack. The only foothold they have on the other side of the Brandywine is this unit here. The King Zone has managed to cross, but they're not in control of the ferries, or the fords, I should say. So going into the next turn, folks, stay tuned. It's heating up. The Americans are fighting back. Let's see what happens next. Take care, folks. Hang in there. It's only going to get better. You can count on it. Take care.